Welcome to our weekly news review as we cover some of the latest cases in the news of procurement and project management issues we are facing. Now, today's topic comes from an article from Construction Dive titled Pursuing a Better Balance of Risk for P3 Projects. Now, over the years, if you didn't know, in an effort to combat poor performance, an approach to contracting has been used, labeled Public-Private Partnerships, or P3 for short. According to the P3 Knowledge Lab, P3s are long-term contracts between a private party and a government entity for providing a public asset or service in which the private party or the contractor bears significant risk and management responsibility, and pay is linked to the performance. Now, the problem here is after the initial testing of these P3 contracts, many large construction companies have avoided further participation due to their experienced losses. One of the main issues cited for P3 projects is the process of transferring risk, which contractors feel is disproportionate to the benefit. Now, let's look at the problem here, which is the attempt to transfer risk. Due to the setup and approach of P3 projects, the clients often attempt to transfer the majority of risk to the contractor through the contract, even when the risk is not caused by the contractor. So, it's understandable why contractors may feel an imbalance, as the type of risk that the contractors are having to deal with, they appear to be risks caused by factors outside of their control, the majority of which seem to be caused by the client. Some of the risks include the lack of project readiness, changes in political support for some projects, unreasonable delays in solving project issues, including disputes, launching projects without a solid financial plan or adequate funding mechanism, and lastly, contractual transfer of difficult or insurmountable technical risks due to the private sector. Now, the result of attempting to transfer risk has shown to be an unsuccessful practice which produces no winners. Two recent case studies include the Maryland Purple Line project, which started in 2017, intending to be completed in 2022. The project eventually halted in 2020 as the contractors disputed $80 million in unpaid overrun fees. After client disputes in court, the contractor decided to leave the project, which has been left in limbo ever since. And the second is the Denver Airport project, amounts at $1.8 billion. The contractor was fired after seeking $288 million in change orders and termination costs. The change orders, which were primarily caused by client issues, plagued the project. The project, now on hold, is attempting to hire another contractor to resume the work. P3 projects are costing both sides losses, not only in enormous fees caused by the process of litigation, but unpaid work done by the contractor and loss in potential revenue and value for the owner. A lesson learned from P3 projects is that the practice of transferring risk is not possible. In addition, when the client attempts to transfer risk, it seems to promote and find other poor practices. The top three are probably a lack of planning and proper identification of risk and risk mitigation upfront, a lack of accountability from the client stakeholders from increased costs and time due to their decision making, and the third is a lack of transparency and up-to-date project tracking and sources of overrun through the entire project. These issues have primarily been caused by misunderstanding of risk. Now, risk is caused by a lack of expertise and understanding, meaning risk can never be transferred. Since the vendor is the expert, they do not have any risk within their scope of work. The project risk is coming from the non-expert client stakeholders. For example, design errors, changing the requirement, delayed approval, etc. When the client tries to transfer their risk to the vendor, it gives the impression that the vendor can take accountability for the client's risk, their lack of expertise and understanding, which they can't. Thus, the only way for vendors to deal with the transferred risk is by increasing their costs through contingency. As research has shown that over 90% of risk is caused by the client, transferring risk has been disastrous, as the contingency funds are not sufficient to cover the cost of client risk, and nothing is actually done to stop the client risk from happening. It's just dealing with the aftermath, which you can only deal with in terms of money and paying more money. So, there is a potential solution, and that potential solution is the transparency created by expertise. The alternative of transferring risk would be to create this transparency, having each party responsible for the costs of risk, overrun in time and money that they cause to the project. Risk mitigation would then be placed with the contractor. Being the expert, the contractor should be the party best fit to do so, as they should have little risk due to their technical expertise and understanding of the entire project. The expert contractor's responsibility then would be in providing transparency and mitigating risk, which actions could include proper planning and measuring through a detailed and milestone schedule, the identification of unknowns and their expectations of each stakeholder up front, including actions with dates. And the third is a weekly risk mitigation, notifying project stakeholders before a potential risk happens that they may cause. Now, if a contractor is capable to fulfill their responsibilities in creating this transparency, the documented results show it would solve the current issues seen today, including the legal disputes, client-stakeholder caused risk, and poor project performance. Now, a proven method does exist that doesn't transfer risk, but solves it by creating this transparency, and that is the best value approach. It's a proven method that hires contractors based on their expertise and places the contractor in the role of the expert. The best value approach utilizes a system which allows contractors to clarify and plan a project before they execute it. And after the execution, it tracks and mitigates risk through the entire project. Now, the documented performance of this system, you can see the numbers is very high, but if you want to learn more about the best value approach or see more videos and updates like this, please like, subscribe, and comment, or go to our website at pbsrg.com.